Hello and welcome to another analysis behind the news. Yesterday was the official Constitution Day in the U.S. It's the day in 1787 that the Constitution was signed and adopted by the Constitutional Convention. The federal government has designated it an official day to be recognized, though you won't find it on many calendars. In fact, it may be hard to find a copy of the Constitution that's not stuck away in a desk drawer, buried by office supplies. And why do we say that? Because it's the same federal government that just hit and passed by the $20 trillion mark of its official debt. And this happened on the same day that President Trump signed legislation into law that allowed the debt ceiling to be raised and enabled unlimited borrowing. The New American reports in an online article that under President Trump's deal with the Democrats, the federal government will not have any spending cap until December 8, when a new debt ceiling will be put into effect. And further into the article, they write, "What's worse is that as bad as these figures are, the real numbers are terrifyingly worse." Truth in Accounting, or TIA, a Chicago-based government watchdog that pushes governments to release accurate financial reports, reports that the national debt is well above $100 trillion when unfunded liabilities such as Medicare and Social Security payments are taken into consideration. The federal government doesn't include those unfunded liabilities on its balance sheet, said Bill Bergman, Director of Research for TIA. So, what happens when you hit that type of milestone? Do you look for rational ways back to fiscal responsibility? Nah, you get a socialist senator to introduce a Medicare for All bill. According to the New American, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All Act would, over a 4-year period, move all U.S. residents from their current public or private insurance programs to a single federal program with comprehensive coverage and no co-payments, except in the case of prescription drugs. Such a program would go far beyond Medicare, making Uncle Sam the sole source of health insurance in the nation. Private insurance would be outlawed, therefore giving Washington total control over the health care system. Now, it's bad enough that a sitting U.S. Senator wants to flip the scope of the federal government, limited under the U.S. Constitution, on its head. But Bernie has the support of at least 16 other senators, all Democrats, of course. And that's a full third of the Democrats in the Senate. Conservative commentator Ben Shapiro suggested that Democrats continue to push further and further to the left because they are fearful of being outflanked by socialists. He wrote, "There's no benefit to moving to the center when your base sees no purpose in fiscal responsibility. So instead, Democrats race one another to the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, Republicans cower in fear. Afraid of making the case for freedom, they compete with Democrats to see who can administer the giant state more efficiently, as though efficiency were the key problem with statism. Thus, Republicans ran headlong from the possibility of repealing Obamacare, afraid that the American people would backlash against them for taking away some form of entitlement." So, you can see that neither political party has the fortitude to do what's right, which is to obey the Constitution. Yet, there are many who think that if we can just amend the Constitution, that the federal government will just fall into its constitutional place. Really? Do you really think that those that are bent on changing the scope of the American system of government, our way of life, are going to follow a new amendment? Have you seen any of these proposed amendments? They help to legitimize the current unconstitutional levels that the federal government has been allowed to grow into. Because there hasn't been any real discipline from the creators, a vacuum was formed, and the creation morphed into what we see today as the federal government. And to top it off, many of the creators, and we're talking about the states here, are even complicit in allowing this vacuum to occur due to financial incentives. It's hard to dole out discipline with one hand, while on the other you are accepting federal revenue on the average of 30% of your state's revenue. So, what to do? It's certainly easy to complain and offer suggestions about what other people can do. But what about you? Are you ready to get motivated and activated? Because that's exactly what the John Birch Society does. We educate, activate, and motivate patriotic Americans to work as one body that works toward less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. Your founding fathers handed you a legacy to cherish and protect. Isn't it time you took your place in history? Because the Constitution is the solution, we will wipe out that debt. We will wipe out those unconstitutional agencies that eat out our substance. And we will return America to a land of the free. Are you ready? Join with like-minded Americans all across this great country today. Join the John Birch Society. Visit jbs.org to connect to us today. Until next time, we'll see you then.